Mr. Chairman, indeed, this is one of the great testimonies to Governor Brown's legacy, the California Conservation Corps, and I might note B.T. Collins and Jack Dugan, too. A point I want to make, it's way beyond this particular conference committee, but it does somewhat affect this kind of proposal ongoing. It does relate to our capability on the fire crews. For decades, we've depended highly on CDCR inmates to help in the fire season. With the significant decrease of CDCR the inmates left to go out on the fire crews are not the same type of inmates. To say the least, they're more dangerous, more risky, and there aren't as many available. Clearly, in my opinion, in the future, a source will be an expansion of California Conservation Corps folks to go on the fire lines in the future. I'm just suggesting in future years and budgets that we begin seriously thinking about how we would be able to expand the CCC to be that firefighting force. Clearly, they're going to be the best source that we would have to do that. So in future budgets, I suggest future administrations and the legislature keep that in mind.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hancock.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very supportive of this program, too. I've seen it operate in and around my community. My question is, would this be an increase in the number of Corps people, or would it be a shift from living at home? And I understand some of the issues of having to get to the place where the work is done every day, but living at home and living in a residential center?
It'd be a mixture of both. For Napa and Pomona, there are existing satellite facilities already there, so these are replacements. It's presumed that some of the individuals that currently attend the non-residential facility may also be interested in a residential facility, and it would also be an expansion overall to meet the ongoing needs with fire suppression, as Senator Nielsen has mentioned, and energy retrofits, and several other water programs that are coming forward. There is a need for greater Corps membership.
What is the total number of Corps membership now? I couldn't find it, but
I have that number somewhere. Yeah, let me ask the program staff person will know.
Yeah.
I believe it's approximately 1,700 for 16-17.
So it's
right?
small.
No, 1,722 limit for that.
1,700.
More than that. That sounds right.
1,700.
Approximately, I think it's 1,722 was the number I was looking at this morning.
Do you have any sense of what it would be after we put in the residential centers?
Well, since each residential houses approximately 80 to 90, 80 to 90 additional per residential, and obviously they don't stay there. You know, there'd be people cycling through, so over multiple years, that would be
right. About how many years does a young person stay in the Corps?
I think the average is 2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's all determined in what programs they're with and if they find other opportunities.
Do we have any information or sense of what the total need might be?
I don't have anything particular from the Corps on that. One thing to note is that the Corps has, does outreach, and there's been different interests in the Corps depending on, what's going on with the economy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, and then isn't there a federal program similar to this? A national conversation?
Are you thinking of AmeriCorps?
No, I'm not thinking of AmeriCorps. I thought that there was more of a national conservation corps. No?
Not that I'm aware of. I think.
Okay, thank you. That's important. Yeah, I would be very supportive of this effort too when the time comes.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Lara.
Thank you. Just more of an observation. I too am supportive of the Corps, but let's also remind ourselves that we need to focus on investing in children, childcare, preschool and after-school programs that actually prevent a lot of these kids from entering these situations where they're at risk, and we would need to further invest in these core programs. And so as we move and deliberate in terms of absolutely supporting these programs, let's also be mindful that we are not doing justice to the children of our state.
Thank you. Assemblymember Bloom.
Thank you. I want to take a moment to point out that the subcommittee, my subcommittee, looked at this issue and joined in supporting all the goals and the great work that the Conservation Corps does. Our concern in moving this item forward was simply the amount of money that's involved and the shift in focus. We want to make sure that we get it right and that the money is spent well. That's our oversight role. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that a member of the Conservation Corps, who was a young female inmate, died in a fire in my district, fighting that fire. And so folks in the Conservation Corps are out there on the front lines doing hard work, doing dangerous work, and we very much respect their efforts and the efforts of the Corps itself. This has been a very, very successful and meaningful program in California. We want to make sure that it stays that way.
Thank you. Back to Senator Leno.
You're very gracious, Mr. Chair. Thank you. For finance, we have a note in our staff analysis that one of the needs that I don't think we've yet addressed with regard to the residential centers is that some of our youth can literally not complete the course in the satellite facilities because they have to cross gang boundaries, and it's dangerous to their physical being, and that these residential centers alleviate that concern. Are you familiar with any of this? I think some of this information might have come from the Corps itself.
I believe you're right. It did come from the Corps, and there are situations where if you're trying to get to a satellite location that's not near your home, which not everyone has one near their home or even in their city, depending on the route you have to get there, that is entirely possible. One of the advantages of a residential is if you are a youth in an area with a high gang population, perhaps you could do a residential program in an entirely different city where you could live there and be removed from the influences that may be a disadvantage to your ability to do your education and learn.
And given the population of youth that assists Corps participants, this would not be an uncommon situation.
I don't believe so. I don't have any specific information.
Okay. I just raised this for all the members of the committee to recognize that this is not just some bit of luxury that we want to bestow upon the Corps, that this is really an offer of assistance to get them through the entire program, and by a slight additional investment, we can really impact very positively the lives of many of these youth, and that we should be sensitive to what's actually going on the ground and what's keeping many of them from completing their programs in these satellite facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to issue 8, legislative proposals, natural resources. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Brian Brown with the LAO. Page 22 of your agenda identifies a number of proposals added by the legislative committees that were not part of the governor's budget plan. In total, you'll see 11 issues across several different departments. I'll just walk through a really high-level summary, and then certainly my folks can answer any specific questions you have on the individual proposals. As you can see, the Assembly added general fund for several projects and programs. This includes within the Parks Department some additional funding for the final renovation stage of a historic hospital building at Angel Island State Park, as well as a solar generation project at Malakoff Diggins State Park. It also provided funding for rescue activities related to sea lions and whales, and funding to assess the activities and costs associated with restoring the watersheds that feed the Shasta and Oroville dams. The Assembly also added 2 pieces of trailer bill language, one that codified that, among other things, orcas can't be bred in captivity, and also placeholder language to establish a fee on manufacturers of aftermarket parts, vehicle parts, and that funding would be directed to faster processing of applications for those parts at the Air Resources Board. On the Senate side, they added additional funding and positions for a few different sets of projects and programs, additional funding designated from Proposition 1 for Tahoe restoration activities, also additional positions at the Department of Pesticide Regulation for activities to reduce risk to pollinators from pesticide use, and positions at the Department of Toxic Substances Control to extend the independent review panel. And finally, the Senate added additional special fund resources for material costs for the Education and Environment Initiative in Cal Recycle. Our office doesn't really have specific recommendations on the individual proposals. Largely, whether to move forward with these proposals reflects your policy choices, whether that's for general fund or other special fund resources.
Thank you. Ms. Costa.
The administration doesn't support the legislative augmentations within this package, and I'd note we have concerns with the 2 proposed pieces of trailer bill language offered by the Assembly as well.
Thank you. No questions. Seeing no questions or comments, Senator Leno.
Ms. Costa would be disappointed if I didn't ask her about why the administration opposes 2 additional positions to expedite the administration's pollinator protection proposal at the Department of Pesticide Regulation. So, again, if you could better share with us how seriously you have assessed the decline of our bee population, the risk that further decline would have on our agricultural industry, and why you would resist an additional 2 positions, even if we were to make them term limited, to expedite your own plan. That's really what we did on the Senate side.
Disappointed would be a strong word, Senator Leno, but I am glad that you raised this issue. I would note that, as you've noted, we did include in the governor's budget a proposal regarding this program, and our proposal was based on assessment of workload needs. And so based on that assessment, we feel our proposal provides adequate expenditure for the work that they have ahead of them. But we certainly share your concern about this particular issue.
Mr. Barton, Mr. Brown, you have much to offer with regard to the decline of our bee populations and what it's going to take for the state of California to make sure that the 20-30% decline we've seen in the past 8 years, more than probably related to the unbridled use of the neonics, and what we're going to do to shore up the health of the bee colonies.
Mm-hmm. We would just note that the President of the United States, in a 2014 memo creating a federal strategy to promote the health of bees and pollinators, directed U.S. EPA and to engage state agencies in developing pollinator protection programs, or MP3s, as a means of mitigating pesticides risks to bees and managed pollination. So this is a problem that's been acknowledged at the international level, both in the United States, Canada.
I think there's a moratorium in Europe
collaborating with us on
themselves.
it. So it is a very serious problem it's something that the United States EPA is concerned about in terms of affecting agriculture throughout the nation.
And any opinion with regard to the 2 additional positions to expedite the governor's own proposal?
Well, our understanding of the 2 additional positions is that they would perform functions similar to the ones that were previously approved, and that would be to review the labels and modify them as necessary for the use of pesticides, and also to do community outreach and coordinate with county agricultural commissioners to ensure that the agricultural community is aware of the effect of pesticides on the pollinators in the communities.
Did I not hear your answer? I'm sorry. So you don't think there's a need for it? There is a need for it.
At this point, we haven't had a chance to assess what the additional need is. So at this point, we're not ready to say.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to follow back up with Ms. Costa regarding the Angel Island State Park. I know that the Natural Resources Department has kindly put in resources for the staffing of the park. Unfortunately, there's a shortfall in terms of the renovation costs for the park, so just wanted to further understand your opposition, just because if there is money set aside for staffing, but if the park's not renovated and fully able to open, what could the administration do to sort of assist to make sure those resources are well spent?
On the Angel Island State Park, the administration's concerns regarding whether or not this represents an expansion of the scope of both the program and the physical site. So we have concerns about whether or not it would create an expansion of this project.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, thoughts? Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on to issue number 9, public utilities related issues. Okay, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ross Brown with the LAO. Your agenda item 9 on page 24 includes a variety of public utility and energy-related proposals. 2 proposals that were proposed by the administration, and the houses took different actions, as well as 2 additional items that were added by the Assembly. So first, the administration proposed $1 million in reimbursable contracts for the Public Utilities Commission to conduct a study of telephone service quality and reasons for telephone carriers' inability to meet out-of-service standards. The Senate rejected the proposal. The Assembly adopted just $1,000, I believe, with the intent to send it to conference committee for further discussions. The second item, the administration proposed $15 million general fund for climate research at the Energy Commission, research into low-carbon biofuels and alternative vehicle technologies. The Assembly directed that money to go to biofuel research at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. The Senate reallocated $9 million of that funding to fund research on atmospheric rivers at the Department of Water Resources. The 2 additions by the Assembly, one is trailer bill language to increase the natural gas surcharge to raise $50 million for the Pure Natural Gas Research and Development Program at the Energy Commission, and also adopted budget bill language to allow the public utilities to spend funds to establish a 211 service in counties that currently don't have a 211 service. Just for context, 211 is a toll-free number that residents can call to get information on various government programs, social services, and health services, as well as certain emergency information during emergencies. Happy to answer any questions that you have on these proposals.
Great, thank you. Ms. Costa.
We continue to support the administration's proposal on the service quality item, as well as the biofuel research. I'd note for the research, the administration's proposal was a competitive grant program, and we continue to believe that that's an important component of this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Assemblymember Obernolte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question for the administration. So obviously the legislature does not concur with the proposal to allocate $1 million to the quality of service study. And one of the reasons why we do not concur is that it seems like we're closing the barn door after the horse has already left. We've got unrelated legislation in the Assembly this year that has fostered a lot of discussion about landline service in California. And the latest statistics I've seen are that it's only 15% of households that are still dependent on that. So we put it to $1,000 so that we could have the discussion here. Could you justify why you think it's worth spending $1 million on this study?
We think it's worthwhile because there are about 5.8 million households that still rely on landline. Many of those are senior citizens, and they're in rural communities. What the $1 million would do would allow the PUC to take a look at why AT&T and Verizon, which has now been acquired by Frontier, are not meeting the standard in terms of, for example, repairs. So the requirement is that 90% of repairs be completed within 24 hours. While the small providers are able to meet that standard, AT&T and Verizon/Frontier have not been able to, and the PUC wants to develop an understanding as to what the problem is and what's causing it.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm certainly very sympathetic myself to rural communities because I represent quite a few of them. However, I have a suspicion that $1 million would be better spent helping those people transition to digital service rather than studying why the service on their old analog system is not adequate. But that's the reason why we wanted to have the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Nielsen.
Could you give me a little specifics on the biofuels, the natural gas surcharges for biofuels? What's the total amount of this program? What will the surcharge be? What kind of research are you talking about here? The natural gas.
Go ahead.
So the current natural gas surcharge raises roughly $650 million, and so the proposal would be to increase the surcharge, I believe, by $50 million. So 5.0, yes, exactly. So I think between 7% and 8% increase in sort of the overall amount of funding that would be raised. Now, the funding would be directed to the Pure Natural Gas Research and Development Program at the Energy Commission. And that's just sort of a part of where the current funding goes. A lot of the money that's raised through the surcharge currently goes to energy efficiency programs and programs for low-income consumers. The current amount of funding that goes to the Pure Natural Gas Program at the Energy Commission, I believe there's $24 million transferred each year to that program.
And that's strictly at the discretion of the Energy Commission. They have some scientific advisory body that makes the determination of what and who's it allocated to?
The Ella Morati, Department of Finance, the budget bill actually includes the transfer item and the appropriation of the $24 million that LAO referenced. And it's based on a PUC decision, but it is included in the budget bill.
Okay.
And I would note that the Assembly proposal to increase the surcharge to a level to raise $50 million, it does not include a corresponding action to increase the appropriation and transfer the funds.
Okay, thank you. That's Member Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions. On the same $15 million program, has the legislative analyst considered whether that would be more appropriately funded perhaps through the cap and trade program, or do you believe the general fund is the right place for that research?
I think it's worthy sort of considering whether or not some of the types of activities could be funded through cap and trade. I think one of the issues is that these activities tend to be more basic sort of research and development activities, less sort of implementing sort of existing technologies that are out there and are prevalent, which is, I think, where some of the cap and trade focus has been, where you can sort of demonstrate that these projects are being implemented and attempt to try and quantify the reductions. The focus of this program is a little bit more early stages and research and development, so I think that brings in perhaps a little bit more risk as far as sort of verifying the emission reductions associated with that.
Okay, thank you. And then on the Senate proposal to spend $8 million on the CEC's research for atmospheric rivers, has the legislative analyst looked at that proposal, or finance for that matter? My understanding is it may have the potential to increase water supply up to 250,000 acre feet. has the LAO looked at that, or has Finance looked at that proposal? And do you agree that there's potential to increase water supply there?
We don't have a lot of detail on this particular proposal.
Yeah, Rachel Ehlers, LAO. Similarly, I know there is ongoing research with federal NOAA and the Department of Water Resources on atmospheric rivers right now. I think that this proposal would expand some of that research to add additional sensors, but we haven't seen enough details to be able to comment.
Okay. And perhaps a senator could speak to where the $8 million suggestion came from, as opposed to some other dollar amount. But I think there's value if there's real potential here to increase water supply.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to, Senator Bates.
Quick question for LAO. I'm just back to the surcharge so we completely understand what that might be. Would it be considered a tax? A surcharge would suggest a fee, but the nexus to, a legitimate fee for service when it's research is a stretch. So what would your opinion be on a surcharge being scored as a tax or actually surcharge/fee?
I mean, that's I think primarily a legal question. So I think our first piece of advice would be probably consult with counsel to get their legal opinion on the issue. I think just for some background, it's our understanding that the piece of legislation that originally established the surcharge, the council's digest did sort of identify it as needing a 2/3 vote to pass. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Let's move on to issue 10. Ms. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Jessica Peters with the Analyst's Office. Issue 10 on page 26 of your agenda is the green and white HOV sticker programs. The green stickers are issued to low-emission vehicles such as plug-in hybrids. White stickers are issued to zero-emission vehicles such as fully electric vehicles. And these stickers or decals allow people with these vehicles to use a carpool lane. The governor proposed extending these programs with trailer bill language. Specifically, the governor had three pieces in their proposal to extend the white sticker or zero-emission vehicle program through the year 2025, to remove an existing cap on the green stickers through the current statutory end of that program in 2019, as well as to require a report back to the legislature, providing information on the extent to which allowing these zero and low emission vehicles in carpool lanes is causing congestion or a degradation of those carpool lanes for the traveling public. And that report would be provided December 1st of 2017. The Senate approved the governor's proposal as proposed. The Assembly approved the proposal but amended the language to have the white sticker program extended until 2019 instead of 2025. We think that to the extent the legislature wants to revisit this program sooner and would have more information from the report on the effect on travel and carpool lanes, that the Assembly version is a reasonable approach, and the legislature can revisit these programs at that time. And if it was the legislature's priority, you could always extend it at that time to the 2025 year as was originally proposed.
Thank you. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. We support the Senate version of this item. We'd note our concern that the Assembly's action to shorten the authorization of the white HOV decal program conflicts with the administration's broader greenhouse gas reduction goals. We'd also note that Caltrans is required to regularly evaluate congestion in these carpool lanes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other? Ms. Olson.
Quickly, Mr. Chair, generally I'm supportive of these programs. In fact, I've supported Mr. Bloom's, I believe it's 1964 this year, which I think takes a thoughtful approach toward this program. But my question is, to Department of Finance, I suppose, is what does this have anything to do with the budget?
It was proposed as a broader package. We had a broader transportation proposal, and it was just proposed as a number of things to address the administration's concerns and policy goals.
Okay, thank you. I might suggest we just let this carry out through the policy arena.
Thank you. Senator Lara.
Thank you. I have a question for the LAO. What are the amount of the rebates for each of the white stickers and the green stickers? Do we have that?
For the sticker or for the purchase of the vehicle?
The purchase of the vehicle.
We can get back to you with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We were going to skip issue 11. I believe we are working out language and hope to reach agreement later today. So I think we were going to move to issue 12, transportation research. Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Paul Jacobs with the LAO. Issue 12 is found on page 30 of your agenda, and is related to research funding for the UC Institute of Transportation Studies, which is currently located at 4 separate UC campuses. Now, the governor has a baseline amount of $980,000 in the budget. The Senate has approved that baseline amount, while the Assembly has augmented it by $3 million in response to a request by UC Regents to increase funding for the ITS program. We recommend going with the Senate on this. While augmenting the program might have some merits for the state, a detailed plan identifying specific unmet research needs for the state of California has not been provided to the legislature. Thank you very much. We're here to answer any questions on this item.
Thank you. Ms. Costa.
We also support the Senate version and concur that the Institution of Transportation Studies has not provided any specific proposal for the use of these funds and what specific areas of transportation they would research with this augmentation.
Thank you. Mr. Bloom?
I appreciate that there's a difference of opinion on this, but I think it's possible on the dais that there's a consensus for the Assembly version, so I'd like to move the Assembly version. And apologize for stealing Mr. Leno's thunder from earlier.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Yes, same here. 3-1, we'll keep it open for Senator Nielsen. And we're 5-0 on our side? Thank you. 5-0 and 3-1. And we'll hold open for Senator Nielsen. Wonderful. And I think on that note, we can recess. We will reconvene at 5:30. We'll reconvene at 5:30. Thank you very much.